Our reading today is taken from the Gospel of Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews?" For he observed his star at its rising and had come to pay him homage. When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler, who is the shepherd, my people of Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The word of God for the people of God. Please be seated. Well, grace and peace to the disciples of Jesus, and Happy New Year. Dr. Les Perot, in his book, Shoulda, Coulda, Woulda, tells an old legend about three men. Each man carried two sacks, one sack tied in front of his neck and the other sack resting on his back. When the first man was asked what was in the sack, he said, "In the sack on my back are all the good things friends and family have done for me." That way they are hidden from view. Now in the front sack are all the bad things that have happened to me and all the mistakes I've made. And every now and then I stop and I take all those things out and I look at them, reflect upon them. But because he stopped so much along the road to concentrate on all the bad things in his life, his pace was slow and he made very little progress. When the second man was asked about his sack, he replied in exactly an opposite way. "In the front sack are all the good things that have happened to me," he said. "I like to see them, and so quite often I take them out to show them off to people and reminisce. But what about the sack and back?" he was asked. He answered, "I keep all my mistakes and all my regrets in there and carry them all the time. So they are heavy. They slow me down, but you know, for some reason I can't put them down." When a third man was asked about his sack, he answered in slightly a different way. Like the second man, he answered, "The sack in front is where I leave all the blessings I've experienced, all the great things other people have done for me. The weight isn't the problem. In fact, the weight helps me moving forward. But as for the second sack," he answered, "the sack on my back is empty. There's nothing in it. I cut a hole in the bottom of it. Then I put all my regrets and all my mistakes from the past in that sack. They go in one end and out the other, so I'm not carrying around any extra weight at all." That's pretty good advice for 2019. We all carry around hurts and regrets that weigh us down. The new year would be a good time to cut a hole in our sack and let all those hurts and regrets go away. Let's focus on the good things. Let's focus on the light of Jesus Christ in 2019. It is interesting that we are starting this New Year's off on the day of Epiphany. The day of Epiphany is the first day in the season of Epiphany, which begins with the wise men following a distant light and continues through the celebration of the Transfiguration, when we see Jesus in all his glory. Epiphany is not only a season of the church year, it has crept into our secular world. When we say that someone has had an epiphany, we usually mean that that person has had a moment in which they have achieved a realization, an awareness, or a knowledge of something, after which events are thrown into a new light. And sometimes those epiphanies can be life-changing. Let me give you an example of such an epiphany. An African-American woman named Bessie Pender one day admitted to herself that she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And she began to cry, and then she began to pray. And that's when Bessie Pender's life began to change. Bessie experienced her moment of truth as she was cleaning out a classroom at the Northville, Virginia public schools. For the past 10 years, she had been a custodian there doing the same job. She took on that job so that her bills could be paid with her and her husband, Ben. Bessie and Ben had married young and they started a family young. Bessie was only 18 years old. And all those years that she had been a stay-at-home mom, Bessie had yearned to go to college and become a teacher. But at that time, the money required just wasn't there. Those luxuries weren't there for the Penders. So Bessie had gotten a job as a custodian. But after 10 years, she couldn't face the boredom anymore. So one night, in the middle of a dirty classroom, Bessie had a tearful talk with God. After that conversation, Bessie made a commitment to God and herself. And today, Bessie is a 5th grade teacher there in Norfolk in that public school system where she used to clean rooms. She was recently voted Teacher of the Year. Maybe someone here today is struggling with life. Maybe you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Maybe you are in need of an epiphany in your life. Oh, you're in the right place. To turn your life over to God, to ask for His guidance, but more importantly, I think, to ask for His persistence in helping you make a new start, or maybe changing something in your life. The symbol of light is an appropriate one in the darkest season of the year. Light is a favorite symbol throughout the Scriptures. Jesus said about our witness that we do not light a candle and put it under a bushel basket. Jesus Himself is seen as the light of the world. When Isaiah sought to proclaim the coming of the Anointed One of God, he declared, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." This is the good news for us in this new year. Our light has come. Jesus is our light, and in Him there is no darkness. Just as light is the appropriate symbol for Jesus, I think at times darkness is the appropriate symbol for a world without Jesus. Life can be challenging at times. I wish life was as easily explained as the great philosopher of the comic strips, Charlie Brown. Lucy is saying to him, "Life is a mystery, Charlie Brown. Do you know the answer?" Charlie Brown answers, "Be kind, don't smoke. Be prompt, smile a lot, eat reasonably, avoid cavities and avoid too much sun, send overseas packages early, love all creatures above and below, insure your belongings, and try to keep the ball low." Now before he can put out another platitude, Lucy interrupts, and she says to him, "Hold real still, Charlie Brown, because I'm going to punch you on the end of the nose." We can appreciate her frustration. None of us appreciates the know-it-all who spouts out platitudes that miss the real point. What we really need in life is encouragement at times. I mean, don't we? Maybe this past year has been a little rough for you. Perhaps you need somebody to put his hand on your shoulder and reinforce your feelings about yourself. Jesus offers that encouragement. Jesus says, "Arise, shine. Your light has come." What would it take to get your new year off to a good start? Now, I'm sure many of us make New Year's resolutions. I haven't done that for years. I never keep them, so why mess with them? So I don't make New Year's resolutions anymore. Well, some of us do, right? We're trying to lose weight, exercise more, use our time more efficiently. We make our resolutions, but it's not always easy in a world of darkness to keep them. And I think so often our biggest enemy is within. There's something within our hearts that cause some of us to resist the very things that we need to have a satisfying life. So who can doubt that darkness is the appropriate symbol for a world without Jesus? In the same way, the appropriate symbol of a world with Jesus. He is our guide. He is our strength, the one who fills our life with meaning. There's a story Professor Harold DeWolf in his book, The Religious Revolt Against Reason, tells of an experience he had with a young man. He went out swimming at midnight with a friend in the Atlantic Ocean at Massachusetts Bay. He said the water was full of light. Every dip of his hand in the water produced something like a circle of flashing gems, and every breaker looked like a cascade of fireworks. To ride the waves, they went out some distance from the shore. Then turning toward the land, DeWolf was gripped by a strange fear. The lights from the shore no longer shone. So he looked to the sky to get his bearings, but the sky was like the water, full of the spectacular confusion of the northern lights. No single star was visible. Then panic overtook him, for in the glittering display there was no fixed reality. He could not tell his way back to shore. He started back with a helpless terror engulfing him. He learned that with no fixed star to guide you, it was impossible to chart a course for his life. Just like it was impossible to chart a course back to land. Thank God we have a star to follow. We have a star that helps us chart a course for our lives. Just like that star that guided the Magi to Christ, we have that same star guiding us. Jesus, who is dependable and who loves us always. Let that be the star that guides us. We know light makes it possible for us to see. And without light, we are hopelessly blind. Blind to our surroundings, blind to our circumstances, blind sometimes even to ourselves. Light makes it possible for us to see clearly things as they really are. Did you know that the absence of sunlight may cause blindness? Animals who live out their lives in a complete absence of light are commonly blind, even eyeless. Mules kept in mines also become blind. Those who live in dungeons, cellars, prisons that are denied sunlight often lose their sight. Before Jesus, Coltrane writes, most of the world was spiritually blind. Jesus made it possible for us to have a glimpse of God in His glory. Without the light of Jesus guiding our lives, the darkness can be overwhelming at times. This is also true that the light of Jesus in our lives can be overwhelming at times. The light of Christ can be overwhelming at times. But we still need to embrace it. We need not fear it. We need to embrace that light and allow it to guide us this year of 2019. Bart Millard and Mercy Me put it so well in their song, I Can Only Imagine. And you know some of those words. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or will I fall to my knees? Will I sing hallelujah? Or will I be able to speak to you at all? I can only imagine. Of course, we cannot imagine. But we know when we have that final grand epiphany of the glory of Jesus, it will be far beyond anything that we have ever experienced before. Brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you this morning, arise, shine, for your light has come. And if you allow that light to guide your life in 2019, I promise you, it will be a life full of joy, a life full of excitement. And I want to encourage you to do one more thing in 2019. I want you to share that light of Christ, that light of joy with someone who's struggling with life. Because it is the only solution. It is the only resolution for them. They too need the light of Christ. And we've all been there. We all know what it's like to be in a dark place. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in a dark place, I turn to Christ. Now, I don't say that because I'm a pastor. I say that because as I've experienced life, I've come to know the only person that can pull you up on it is Christ. So share the light of